Well, it's time to complete the Karloff trilogy at long last. Son of Frankenstein in 1939 marked Boris Karloff's last portrayal of Frankenstein's monster, and what a film to go out on. This, if you were to count it as a trilogy, is an absolutely perfect trilogy, but it's followed by Ghosts, so kinda not. But if you go by Jarvis trilogy or Thorn trilogy logic, you can still consider it a true trilogy, and it is referred to as the Karloff trilogy. The movie stars Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, Basil Rathbone, who was most well known for playing Sherlock Holmes, and Lionel Atwell as Krog the Inspector. Wolf Frankenstein, played by Rathbone, is coming back to the village. He's lived in America. He's inherited everything after his father dies, and soon he discovers the monster. And like everyone else that gets involved with the monster and all of this, they become blinded by the science and the power. And this film has Bela Lugosi as Igor, not the hunchbacked assistant, but the broke neck manipulative murderer. He's a man who was hung and did not die and claims he helped Frankenstein's father. Now, where? We've never seen it in the other two movies. You ask me. It's clear he's a master manipulator, so he's just flat out lying to Frankenstein. The core of what makes this movie so great is a three-way battle of chess between Wolf Frankenstein, Igor, and Inspector Krog. Krog knows something's up. He wants to prove it, although he doesn't suspect Frankenstein at first, and he starts off as a friend to Frankenstein. He soon expects Frankenstein and is determined to prove it. Frankenstein is kind of caught in the middle. He wants to prove his father was really a great man. There's even a scene where he's at his father's casket and the villagers wrote "Maker of Monsters" on it, and he took a torch, crossed out monsters, and wrote men underneath. And Igor is the evil puppet master pulling the strings, using the monster to get revenge on the jury members who convicted him and had him hanged, which is why he has the broken neck. And there's a lot of great tit for tat and suspense with that. We see there's tunnels under the Frankenstein mansion, including an entrance to the room where his son sleeps, making Igor even more of a threat because of how easily he can put Frankenstein's son in danger without us knowing it. And we also get to see the unraveling of the nerves of Wolf Frankenstein. He starts off pretty happy, and as the movie goes on, he just gets more tense and on edge because of the situation. We have Igor clearly using the monster to kill people, but because of his connection to them, he's smartly enough at a location where everyone could see him playing his flute, so he has the perfect alibi. Now, some might say this is a step down because they tended to play the monster in a more sympathetic light in the first two movies. I don't think so. Again, this is a monster that's seen nothing but a horrible side of people, and Igor was at least decent to him. Of course, we know Igor really doesn't care about the monster, but again, he's a master manipulator, and he's got this monster in his back pocket, a good thing to have, and he uses the monster to kill any and all of his enemies. So yeah, I still think even though it's more under the surface, the monster is still sympathetic, and Karloff's performance is no less amazing than it was in the first two films. The makeup still holds up really well, which I've probably said this before in earlier Universal videos, but the makeup process back then, it wasn't like now where you'd go through the process of taking a cast of your head and they'd make appliances and it can streamline the project. You can get in full makeup in like 3 hours. This makeup was literally made on spot and applied layer for layer. It could take 12 hours to get into makeup. So a lot of times, while Jack Pierce was putting the makeup on, the actors were sleeping. In fact, it was his commitment to making the makeup that way that got him fired from Universal Studios, because as the technology advanced and they started using more appliances, which in his defense, the appliances didn't look as good at that time, the process became streamlined and he was too stubborn to learn the process and still do it the old way, so he was finally let go from the studio, and which is kind of a shame, but at the same time, sometimes you need to get with the times, kind of like people who, even though they have check cards, are determined to pay with check at the grocery store and hold up the line longer than it needs to be held up. Is it a is it still a plausible way to get things done? Yes. Is it an efficient way anymore? Absolutely not. But again, this is just a great film and just the perfect way for Karloff to end his role as the character. The next film would be carried on by Lon Chaney Jr. in Ghost of Frankenstein, and he did a solid job. He played a more weaker, subdued monster, but he did good with it. And then, ironically enough, Bela Lugosi would play the monster, who was the first person to turn the role down. But back to this film, I also love how things slowly ramp up and how because the core of this movie is a three-way game of chess between Wolf Frankenstein, Inspector Krogh, and Igor, that you don't actually get a whole lot of the monster in this film, but you don't mind because everything is so interesting. You want Wolf to be okay because you know his intentions are good. He even states, I know I can be a good influence on the monster. You want Igor to get what's coming to him because Igor is the true monster. But at the same time, you also want Krogh to set things right. You want him to get his man, so to speak, and you're kind of conflicted where if saving the day means getting Frankenstein, even though you like Wolf Frankenstein, you just know it has to be done. It was a great balance. And you could remove the monster. It could just be Krogh looking for Igor and Frankenstein caught in the middle, and it would still be a great movie. And it's like sad but true, they don't make them like this anymore. And Igor was probably Lugosi's best role. And I'm saying that even as great as Dracula was, I think there was something more about Igor that just, I don't know, something about just playing that type of master manipulator character not anyone can pull off. So, Son of Frankenstein, A plus movie. Next, I'm going to review a movie that turned 100 years old this year, the silent classic, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And I've never seen it before, so I'm looking forward to seeing a 100-year-old movie for the first time. And I'm looking forward to reviewing a 100-year-old movie for the first time. I mean, not for the first time, just reviewing a 100-year-old movie. How often can you get to say you reviewed a 100-year-old movie? So, like, share, comment, subscribe, over and out.